Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/eggsshow. Audible has more than 180,000 titles to choose from your phone, your Android, Kindle device, or just about any other device you can imagine. As Eggs listeners, you can download a free audiobook today by visiting audibletrial.com/eggsshow. Again, that's audibletrial.com/eggsshow for your free audiobook. So, hey, everybody. We're back, ready with another big week of eggs. My good friend Miguel has returned from lands unknown, parts unknown.
Yeah.
He's basically been absent for 6 weeks.
Thank you for coping without me.
So it's been great to finally get him back in the studio again.
Yeah, it's nice to be back. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, these pods are great to do remotely, and thank God for technology that we can actually pull it off. But there's something just about having everybody in the same room.
Well, it's more like a conversation. You don't have to listen to what he says and then process and then have to reply. It's like you can hear it live and think about it.
Well, and God knows I much prefer to step on what you're saying, so if I have to stop and listen, that messes things up for me. So anyway, lots has transpired in the last 6 weeks. We're starting to see some real traction on past Eggs shows, which is exciting.
Yeah.
The show is growing by leaps and bounds and starting to really catch fire, which is awesome.
Wasn't it some like 300% growth in the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, we've had some massive growth and really unexpected. I don't know what has happened, but something's happening. Maybe we're just finally getting into the zeitgeist or something. But nonetheless, thanks to everyone who's listening, new listeners, old listeners, and anyone who's stuck with us all this time.
I know, right? Sorry.
Yeah, I can't believe it. But anybody who's paid any attention since the beginning, I hope you will at least recognize there's been some positive growth, some positive change in the way that we do the show. Although I'll be the first to admit that this intro just today was kind of rocky, sort of out of nowhere. So
well, I mean, we haven't done one in for I don't know 5-6 weeks. We've just been reusing old ad reads, and so it's getting into
and just it's been a few weeks even since we've done a show because we had recorded a couple in a row and stuff, so we didn't have to do a show and just you get out of practice. So honestly, thank God you're here, because if you weren't in the room with me, we'd be in real trouble.
I'd be a wreck.
So anyway, so I just wanted to take that little moment though and say thanks to everyone who's been listening, everyone who's sharing the show, following the show, listening to the show. Telling your moms, telling your friends, and spreading the good word, because we're definitely starting to see the numbers, which is awesome. However, the negative for all you listeners is that the more listeners we get, the more ads we're going to start running. So sorry about your luck,
just like
we got to make some
Facebook
money.
and Google. Sorry.
So anyway, so that's exciting stuff. But anyway, so as we started to talk about, Mike has been gone for about 6 weeks. I don't know if anybody remembers him talking 6 weeks ago about leaving, but basically he went up to Washington and did a number of events up there. I'll let him sort of tell us about it. But anyway, he's back, and we got the band back together.
Yeah. Essentially what it breaks down to is 7 out of the last 8 weeks I've been gone.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah. I had 1 week home and then turned around and left again. And it was all just gigs, and the way my schedule lined up, it just didn't make sense to keep driving back and forth. When you do the math on the cost of the gas and the cost of, just the wear and tear on your vehicle, it doesn't make sense to go back and forth and back and forth and back, let alone the time it takes to do it.
Yeah, it's the time of driving out there, and like you said, the wear and tear on the vehicle, but I mean the wear and tear on you.
Yeah.
Is part of that too. As somebody who's spent a fair bit of his life on the road, back in the touring days. Of course, I was much more young and spry then, so it probably wouldn't be as hard on me.
And you had a bunch of people with you too.
Yeah,
with me, it's
go
just
solo.
me. Essentially, I feel like Liz biking across the country by herself in her head. Liz was one of our guests a few weeks ago.
She was on a few weeks ago with the singer from Old Town Tonic,
Marlo. Yeah,
with Marlo. She had basically ridden her bike across the country for a charity. She
was on the road, I think, for like 57 days or something.
Yeah, so 57 days straight bicycling alone. She said that the mental game was one of the most difficult parts.
And it is. Yeah, I mean, it's like, granted, I saw a bunch of friends throughout, but for most of the time I was by myself, and I'd link up and have dinner with a guy here and there, or, shout out to everyone I caught up with. I went out with the drummer of Old Town Tonic and just hit Capitol Hill for a little while. He'd never been up there, wanted to see it. And it just so happened my friend David, DJ Side, and Marty Marr and Sean the Don were all playing on the hill that night. So we kind of bounced around and saw them. And it was good to catch up with everyone. Jeff, he's a guest from here, we had dinner a few days ago. It was nice to link up with him. And essentially I'm taking the rest of the year off with trips back to Washington. Next summer I'll probably start doing some weddings again, but I'm not going to be driving back and forth over the winter.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Well, and I mean, for anybody that's done that drive, I mean, probably not too many folks done the drive, specifically from here to Seattle, from Salt Lake to Seattle or Pocatello to Seattle. But crossing the mountains as you come into Seattle is crazy.
Oh, Snoqualmie Pass. That's part of the reason why I took 2 months off last winter, because the year before I slid off in front of a semi and it scared the hell out of me. And so I was like, I don't need this. And I took last winter off, and I'm taking this winter off. And
I think it just makes sense.
I'm not going to. I'm debating on if I want to go back to any of the venues I worked at in Seattle. I think I'm just going to be focusing on weddings.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, if you take this winter and really focus in on a thing or two, you may find that you just don't even need to do that anymore. Yeah.
So
I think that's great. I mean, a large part of why Mike was in Washington was to do weddings and things like that. For anyone who doesn't know, Mike is a DJ by trade, and among other things. And so he was up there working the wedding circuit. Basically, it's sort of fall wedding season. Yeah. So it's kind of a hot time for him.
Well, from August, September, October, those are the busiest times for weddings, at least in Chelan. June and July, you get a few, 1 or 2, but not very many. It's August and September, the busy time. And so the wedding planner that I work with, she's gracious enough to provide a place for me to stay. Her and Steve, her husband Steve, is amazing, and thank you for doing that. By the way, thanks, Lorene. So it works out to where I can just go into town and kind of crash during the wedding season, and then I'd go into Seattle and play some gigs there and hop around and see people. And it was quite the trip. Lots of fun stuff happened while I was gone. I linked up with my accountant, and
always important stuff.
I know, but it was more of a social engagement this time. Well,
didn't it sort of start that way, and then he evolved to become your accountant? Like, he was a guy you've known or whatever, and then.
So one of my old roommates and pretty much lifelong friends, Todd, is a dentist, but he was also a DJ back in the day with me. Growing up, I kind of taught him how to do it, and he kind of ran my business.
Made a little run at it. I remember him doing that. Wasn't he out in Florida or something?
He was down in Florida for a little while for dental school. Actually, no, he did. He was in the
residency or something out there.
Yeah, he's in the military down there serving to pay off his student loans. And,
I got it.
And so he's just getting out, and I think he's moving. I don't know where to. But his younger brother went to college for accounting, and he just graduated. And I kind of linked up with him to, be my accountant. I've been doing everything myself, and it's getting to the point now where it's a little too much.
Yeah.
And so we went on a hike, and we climbed Mount Eleanor in the Olympic Mountain Range. And I'm not 100% sure on the vertical height that you go up. I think it's like 3,500 feet straight up. It takes about 2 hours.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know if this is right, but it says it's 6.2 miles round trip, 3,300 feet in elevation.
Yeah.
Well, 3,344 to be specific.
Yeah, and I think the mountain itself is like 6,000 feet or something. I think you start off at around 3,000. But anyways, it's quite the hike. You run into mountain goats. You run into all sorts of fun stuff, and it's. I don't know if it was the day that we chose to go on was Labor Day. Yeah, I think it was Labor Day. Was that the one we just had?
I think so. I always mix them up. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Labor Day.
I didn't even know it was a holiday. I was just like,
I always
hey.
mix up Labor Day, Memorial Day my entire life.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure this was Labor Day.
So I was on the holiday. We decided to hike the mountain, and it was like a full-on tourist attraction. I'd hike that thing, back in the day when I was 14, 15. We'd go up all the time, and I'd never seen, maybe 4 or 5 people the whole day. This was a steady stream of people coming down because we started later on in the afternoon. Most people start in the morning to get it over with and come down. We started in the afternoon because we wanted the sunset and we wanted to, avoid any traffic. But holy cow, I thought I was on 405 southbound. Like it was ridiculous. Everyone was coming down, and it was all people that really shouldn't be on a hike like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, because I think a lot of people, especially, because we see it down here in Utah a lot because there's so much outdoor recreation, I think people don't take serious how difficult like a hike can be.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, and it sounds even kind of silly.
There's a difference between like a 5-mile flat hike and a full-on mountain hike,
right?
Climbing straight up vertically.
Every year on the news here, you hear about these guys that are college students or whatever, and they go hike the mountains and the passes around here, and then they fall off cliffs or whatever.
Yeah.
And but it's that situation. It's people who don't know what they're doing, who have now just run out and they're going to go hike this mountain or whatever. And so they end up falling off of things.
Well, coming down, there was a lady and her husband that were obviously struggling, and I think they got halfway up, and she had the full-on ski poles and was trying to get her footing the whole way down. And I actually wanted to reach out to a ranger when I got to the base and just let them know that they were still up there, because we had summited and we hung out for about an hour, and we passed her on the way up as she was coming down, and she hadn't even gotten maybe 300 yards since then.
Oh, wow.
And it was just it's a hard thing if you're out of shape and you're not prepared for something like that. Mm-hmm. And then as we were going up, there was this lady, and I don't know how to say this delicately, because I get, her intention, but she was on her way up with a 6-week-old toddler, like kid, should not be even out of the house, let alone hiking Mount Eleanor. And she was carrying 2 backpacks, a front pack for the kid and a backpack for all the supplies that she needs to take care of the kid. And she had her dog that looked like it had never been outside of the yard.
Oh, wow.
And it was very apparent that she had just gone to REI, bought all this equipment, and thought she was a mountain hiker, mountain climber. And she just had no reason to be on that mountain, especially with the kid.
Yeah.
I get it if you want to go and you want to hike and you want to do something like that yourself, take that risk and that liability
but then to be accountable for the little one.
For the little one and your dog. She ended up leaving her dog halfway down the mountain.
Oh, wow.
While she summited because it was too much for her to do.
Oh, nice. So she just tied him off to a tree.
I guess. We didn't see the dog. We saw her coming up as we were coming back down.
Well, it was a really hard hike. She actually had to eat him on the way up. So.
Oregon Trail.
Yeah, unfortunately, they had the poor dog didn't make it, but, they couldn't starve. So they.
But I just don't know how to say that delicately. It's just common sense is all it is.
Well, and it's hard, right? Because if folks want to be able to go out and do these things, and they see their friends going out hiking and stuff, so they want to go hike and they want to go do this stuff.
Start somewhere else.
Yeah, and so I think that's really it. But it's kind of the same with sports or whatever, right? I mean, whatever you're doing, I mean, you want to get in with both feet, but you're not there yet.
Yeah.
And so
when I was a kid, I would run up this thing and run down it. Not a problem. Yeah. But I've been training for 3 weeks to do it. I knew I wanted to do it, and so every night for the last 3 weeks, because I'd go to the gym and I'd set the elliptical at like vertical, and then I'd go and hit the stair stepper just so I'd be conditioned to do this. And I still had a hard time.
Yeah,
I couldn't even imagine trying to do that with my dog on a leash and
wrestling with a child and everything else. Yeah,
well, not even that, but there's mountain goats up there that are wild. Yeah. 3 years ago, there was a guy that died on that same trail that got stabbed by a mountain goat horn, and he just
mountain goats.
I know.
I mean, I haven't brought it up on this show, but I've come out against mountain goats publicly before because they're violent. They're causing problems.
Well, coming down, they were.
No, it's true though, but it happens. I mean, it's out in West Yellowstone, which is sort of near here all the time. I mean, people get up and they want the photo op with the buffalo or whatever.
Do you hear about the guy that was antagonizing the moose?
I don't know.
or the buffalo or something. It was
it the drunk guy?
the
one
drunk
you're talking
guy.
about?
Yeah,
Yeah. So there, for people who don't know the story, and I only kind of know it, so I'm going to act like I'm an authority, but I don't really know. So Mike, correct me if I'm wrong. But basically, dude is like hammered, and he decides to go up and he starts harassing a buffalo.
There was a buffalo in the middle of the road.
Yeah, and for anyone who's never been through Yellowstone, I mean, it's pretty common. You know, they cross the highway and you have to stop for them. So anyway, so this dude's loaded up and he decides to get out and harass this buffalo and take a photo op with it and all this stuff. I mean, he's lucky he didn't get hurt or killed or anything, but he got like what? Okay, so how'd it go? He took off from there. He ended up getting arrested for it.
Yeah.
For harassing this animal.
Well, I think the video got out of him like harassing it.
Yeah, that's what it was.
They tracked him down.
Yeah, they were able to track him down. And he had like a warrant for his arrest or something, but it was like, I think it was a previous warrant for another animal attack or something.
Before, yeah.
Yeah, he'd been just like harassing animals drunk. Like that's kind of his gig, I guess.
Yeah. Keep in mind, this is all hearsay because we haven't got the whole facts. So
I'm
allegedly.
Googling.
All right. While you're Googling, weddings were awesome this year, except did you get a lot of the smoke from the fires in Canada?
We didn't get the Canadian ones, but we got a lot of fires south of here.
Okay.
And so same deal. We were like overwhelmed with smoke several days.
Okay. So we had fires all around Chelan. We had fires from Canada that was coming down into Seattle. And Seattle at one point was worse, like the second worst polluted city in the world because of the fire, something like that.
Hey, they're giving Salt Lake a run for their money.
We
get it every
well,
winter. So.
It just traps here, though, is the problem, is all the smog has nowhere to go.
It sits down in the valley and then hangs.
But the fires were so bad that, like, I'd set up for the weddings, and I'd have ash falling on these white tablecloths, and they would, it's like, it was ridiculous. At one point, one of the venues I was at, it was so bad you couldn't even see the lake. And that was the selling point for the venue.
Yeah, that's kind of the whole thing.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it was a little force majeure. I mean, it's not like they could do anything about it, but that does suck for the blushing bride to be and everybody. When you show up at your beautiful venue and the venue is covered with smoke.
Well, luckily, a lot of the venues have indoor-outdoor options. So, like, if something like that happens or it's raining, they have a way to get indoors.
Oh, that's nice.
And so it wasn't as bad as it could have been. But yeah, I mean, it was an interesting couple weeks. I went on a bike ride. I was one day. I woke up one day and it was fairly clear, and so I'm like, I'm going to go on a bike ride today. And from Chelan to Manson, it's like 8.5 miles. And there's this small bar in Manson that has amazing hamburgers. It's called Buddy's, and so I figured I'm going to bike into Manson. I'm going to order a hamburger and I'm going to grab a beer, kind of thing. And I get all the way in there, have the hamburger, and then start coming back, and the smoke rolls in. And so the whole second half of the thing,
you're sucking smoke the whole time. I'm just sucking
smoke in. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I just took 2 years off my life. I'm going to die of lung cancer now. And it was like, hindsight 2020, I should have just like pulled over and found a bus stop and taken the bus back. But, it was a fun ride. I think I got 17 miles in that day. But
that's awesome. All right, so quick Buffalo harasser update.
Okay.
So he did end up getting 60 days in prison. So nice. It is legit. 130 total days, and he had served some time already, so he got credit for that. But so 130 days in jail because he pled guilty. So he harassed the buffalo. Basically, he had gotten pulled over. This is the part of the story I don't understand. I mean, and I'm not going to do more research, so we'll just have to go with this. But the part I don't understand is, according to reports, the man was pulled over and appeared intoxicated or whatever once. So he got a citation for that. So he got pulled over,
How do you get a citation for appearing intoxicated?
I don't know. I mean, I guess they assumed he was drunk, but the part I don't get is that he then left. So I mean, they must not have thought he was DUI or something.
Maybe it was just public intoxication.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe he was the passenger or something. Yeah. I don't know. And so, but anyway, then he proceeded from that traffic stop to go into Yellowstone National Park and harass this buffalo. So he got in the buffalo's grill. It sort of charged him a couple times, and then whatever, he got in the car and left. He ran off to Yellowstone, but in the time it took him to get to Yellowstone, that video went viral, and there was enough traffic or whatever. They were able to sort of identify who he was and where he was and the cars around him and all this stuff. They were able to pin him down in Yellowstone. So they tracked him down. They gave him a citation there. for drunk and disorderly, and then I guess it's a federal crime or whatever in a state park to harass the animals.
Yeah.
So they charged him for that, gave him a citation for that. Then dude went on his merry way and went to, I think it was Victoria National Park.
It did the same thing.
And did the exact same thing with another animal.
Evidently, he has a drinking
Apparently,
problem.
when he drinks, he attacks animals, and that's his rap. So anyway, so we don't have to say alleged. I don't think. I don't know the rights or the rules because he was definitely arrested and sentenced. So
That's
I
crazy.
presume we're okay to talk about this. But
Wow.
if not, whatever. But if there's any advice to be taken from this, it's don't attack the bison.
Yeah,
while drunk.
don't mess with animals when you're drunk in state parks.
Well, and it's funny because every year people get killed by the buffalo up there. Get
well, I
gored
mean,
or whatever. It's
on the
crazy.
way down from our hike, we ran into a big mom goat and her kid were in the trail, and the from what I was told, the park ranger said if you see them and they're causing problems, pick up a rock and throw it at them, or throw it near them, and the sound of the rock hitting the other
Should
rocks
chase 'em off.
scares them off. And luckily, there were two other.
Until it doesn't.
Until it doesn't. I know. One of them went up like the hill above us, and we had to walk underneath it. And I posted a picture of it on Instagram. But it's this huge mountain goat, and it's right above me. Like it could jump off and just like
leap down and kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
No, it's pretty crazy. I mean, I've been some places where we've run into in fact, we went on a really long hike that we were way not conditioned to do. Years ago, we went up by Palisades Lake, which is sort of by Jackson Hole area. And we went up there with some friends who
Weren't you just up there this summer?
Yeah. We went up there this summer. This is an old story, though, from like 20 years ago. But we had some friends who were like avid hikers, and they were like, oh, we should go do this trail. And I can't remember what it's called, but there's a Palisades Lake Trail or whatever, where there's two stops. There's like a small lake and then the big glacier lake up at the top of the mountain. And so you can go all the way up and see, the Palisades Lake or whatever it is, because the reservoir is down below, but I think this is like the glacier lake or whatever. And so we took this hike. We didn't know until we got up there because we were stupid and didn't think to ask, but it's 14 miles up, 14 miles back.
Wow.
And I mean, me and my wife were just like, we're in horrible shape.
Yeah.
we were in no way equipped. I had, tennis shoes on or whatever. Like I was not prepared. So we got all the way up there. I mean, luckily, even though I'm not in the best shape ever, I'm pretty good at just sort of self-torture.
Yeah.
So I could just kind of put my head down and keep trudging and make the trip, without too much trouble. But I remember by the time we got up to the top, I was so pissed off. And then we just had to cross like this little stream to get to our camp spot. And so we'd walked, 14 miles. Got up to this top bit,
I am not
and you just
taking
have to cross
another
this little
step.
thing, and it's just there's this cute little island with like a creek down either side. We'll just go on that island. So just just step across this or whatever. Well, as I'm stepping across, I
You fell
slip
in.
into this stupid little creek with my pack on, so it gets drenched. I get drenched. Everything's drenched.
Everything's wet.
And so I stood up. Tia said she's never seen me so mad before, but I grabbed my bag and I just hucked it one-armed out into the campsite where we were going to go. And, but I mean, this was like for a week's trip or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a heavy bag, 100-pound bag or whatever. And I just threw it, and I was so pissed, and I just stormed off. My shoes were drenched, and it was getting late, because it took a while to make the hike. So it was starting to get dark, and it was cold up there because we were like glacier level and stuff. And it was just the worst thing. But anyway, kind of circling back around to animal interactions. On the way back down, we ran into mama moose and a couple
that's
baby
not
moose
good.
down in the creek next to the trail.
They're mean, dude.
Yeah,
You
well, and that's what
avoid
they say.
them.
They say that especially the mother moose. They say, the mother moose will kill a bear. I mean, they're no messing around. And unfortunately, we couldn't do a whole lot to get away from her, so we just kind of kept it quiet and walked down the trail. We did not throw rocks at her.
Yeah.
So
Probably not the best advice for that
yeah,
situation.
that seems like weird advice. But maybe
Well,
with the mountain goats,
Supposedly,
because
it's the sound
or
of the
something.
rock hitting the other rock. They
sounds
think
like
it's
other
like an
goats on other
avalanche coming
rocks or
down or
something.
something.
Oh,
so
okay.
they're afraid of that, because they're goats and they're in mountain level, So
Yeah, that makes sense, I guess.
I don't know. That's
I
what
don't know.
a guy told me. So it
Yeah.
could be legit, or
Or
I
he
might
could be
looking-
trying to get you to throw
I might
rocks
get
at
a
goats.
ticket for throwing rocks at goats.
Yeah, here it comes. I can just wait for the federal summons to show up.
This is an alleged story. It's 100% fabricated. I don't know.
Yeah, we just needed something to talk about for the show this week. So so while Mike's been gone, obviously I've been on my own down here. I think we've had a few great shows recently that are definitely worth checking out that we've done remotely and everything. But while we've been doing that, I've been broadcasting, or we've been broadcasting generally out of this co-working space here in Salt Lake City. It's called Access Salt Lake. So shout out to those guys. They've been hooking me up over there. And I've been meeting a lot of really great people and all this stuff. So I've been working really heavy on business development while Mike was gone.
I know. I feel like I've been slacking.
Yeah. And so unfortunately, I haven't been working on everything, but I've been working on some business development for my main company. And for people who've followed the show or the saga of the show, we've talked a time or two about, struggles in the design business and trying to grow the business and things like that. And so this is just kind of a little bit of an update as to what's been going on with that lately. Basically, I've been doing a lot of networking, a lot of things like this. I'm starting to actually develop some ways that I think I could share that would be good networking help for folks who are trying to develop business and stuff like that. Because I'm finding pretty decent success doing what I'm doing. Making a lot of great connections, networking with a lot of people, and it's sort of opened my eyes, and it's so funny. So one of the projects I'm working on, have I talked about Whittle on here before? I don't remember if I have or not. So anyway, so I've got this little side business that I'm trying to put together. It's called Whittle, and I won't get into all the details because I don't want you clowns to rip me off. But anyway, what the business is it's basically a startup, this idea that I'm working on, and I had presented it to a gentleman, somebody way above my pay grade, who was willing to listen to me blabber on about what should I do with my life. And
we all need one of those, right?
Yeah, and I had initially met with this character to talk about my design shop, like how do I move forward, how do I transition this business, but it's not his business or even something he knows anything about. So I could see his eyes glazing over. And so I decided to start talking to him, he's a startup guy. He's had a bunch of startups, sold a bunch of startups, things like that. And so I was like, okay, well, let's talk that. And so I've got this list, this digital sticky note in my phone with all the ideas and concepts on it. And one of them was this Whittle concept. And I gave him, a little 30-second elevator pitch on it or whatever. And he was like, boom, ready to invest. Like he's in on it. And he loves this thing. And so, but what was interesting to me is that moment sort of opened up my eyes to a whole part of the world that I didn't even really realize existed. And so I'm going to try and craft this into a point that I think other people can use or hopefully apply in terms of just trying to continue your education. And I know for most people listening to the show, you're going to go, dude, you're a moron. You should have
known that.
This isn't like a rocket science thing that I figured out. But the point I'm trying to make is that by learning something new, it opened up my whole spectrum. It opened up
it's like that door. Aha moment. Like when you
that's a good way to describe it.
You have a few of those throughout your life, and when you get them, if you're not paying attention, it just goes by you. But if you are, and you think, oh, if I did this, it does this. And you have to be...
Well, and so basically that's what happened is I had gone back out. I decided to make a real push on my design business, basically try and transition out of being a, high functioning, good, great performing, overachieving freelance operation that consisted of me and a few other people to, expand my bandwidth and actually turn it into like a legitimate business with employees and, everything. And so when I made that decision to start pushing that, I really started reaching out to people. I've met with a number of CEOs and CMOs. In fact, that was one of the key ideas or one of the big reasons for going and meeting Chris Do and these guys, is all trying to figure out how to transition my business. I'm basically doing something with my business I've never done before. And it was funny because I didn't even really realize that my business was just kind of an extension of my freelance business because, we make good money, we do all this stuff, so it felt like business to me. But when I sat down and really analyzed it, basically the whole business was me.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that, but in order to scale or to grow, we needed to shift that. It can't be about me anymore. It's got to be led by me, and with by building a good team around me, we're able to scale and
100%.
And so, which is a little bit of an eye opener to me, and it's it's one of these aha moments. It's dumb, somebody with two brain cells to rub together probably could have figured it out ahead of me. But it's one of those things when you're, trying to, what's the saying, see the forest from the trees or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's sort of that, right? Or a contractor's wife, right? Your husband's busy building everyone else's house and yours gets forgotten about.
Or the mechanic's wife, same thing.
Whomever's wife. And so, and in our case, it was the same with the design business. We built a good business, but we kept kind of hitting a ceiling. Like, Jesus, why can't we get past this? How do we get past this?
There's only so much you can do on your own.
Well, and that was the realization, right? Is that I'm the bottleneck. So anyway, so after talking to this gentleman about my little startup idea and him getting in on that, it opened me up to this whole world of, wait a minute, there are people out there who could help me do stuff instead of this kind of one-man band version that I've been doing for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And so it really opened some doors to me. And since then, I've met with a number of different venture capitalists and angel investors and all kinds of stuff that, it didn't even occur to me to ask somebody else for help. You know what I mean? And so it's been kind of an interesting adventure in learning and meeting new people and all this stuff.
Well, just approaching it with that in mind is different than
it's just totally because, Mike knows me, and he and I are very similar this way. I mean, we've always been kind of one-man bands where we wear 35 hats and we do everything, and it's served us pretty well. But in terms of trying to develop a business that is scalable and can employ a lot of people and bring, good things to more than just me, it's very important that I make this transition and I go from where I'm the bottleneck to where, we can build a team and sort of everybody can grow together.
Can I recommend a book to you?
Yes, I love books.
It's called Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business by Gino Wickman. And I listened to it over the course of the last, it's one of the many books I listened to on this last trip. But it's very boring. The guy that read it has zero personality, but the information is good. So if you can get through that, if you're listening to it instead of reading it, if you can get past the guy that's doing the read for it, it's a good book. And there's a lot of good content as far as like how to structure a business, how to find little things that you wouldn't think of that are going to be like a cancer cell in your organization, and how to get around. Like it's very an interesting read. But for me, I had a hard time staying focused on it. Mm-hmm. And so just keep that in mind. But it's a great book.
Well, and, another person I've been listening to a lot lately is Melinda Livesey that was on our show.
Oh, nice.
She is about 6 months ahead of me in terms of process. Like we're kind of going down the same trail in terms of shifting our business from strictly design to a little bit more strategic work and stuff like that. And in my case, I'm actually splitting the business into two, one being a strategic business and one being the design business. I mean, basically, I've spent my whole life as a designer. I'm not going to give up now.
Yeah.
And so I've got to figure out how to make all that work. But a lot of the steps that I'm taking are things that have been espoused and discussed by Chris Do, who's been on our show. And then Melinda is a lot like me in terms of her position. And we're actually sort of contemporaries in terms of the growth we're going through right now. So she's been doing a lot of things, and I'm actually pretty inspired or pretty jealous by her. Like I wish that I was doing as many things as she is, in terms of YouTube videos and live streams and putting out material and writing newsletters and stuff like that. Like she's being very prolific with all that stuff. And it seems to really be sort of feeding her sort of this machine, this transition she's trying to make from a freelance business to a non-freelance business. And so it's been pretty inspiring to watch, outside of the days that I feel sad that I'm not doing anything. But I am starting to see some success on the new business front. Landed a new client today, for example. I've got a couple more on the hook that I think are coming in this week, which will be awesome. And so, I'm starting to see in my own business that we're starting to make a transition. And but a lot of it stems, even though it's sort of unrelated or it's whatever, it stems from this conversation with this guy who was interested in my other harebrained idea.
Yeah.
Because, like I say, I've been one of these guys that did everything by myself for so long that I never thought to lean on other people or look to others for advice or whatever.
So at one point, around the same time that your thought process was changing, my thought process kind of changed too with the web project I've been working on. And we sat down and we kind of laid it out in a static site that we could shop around for investment. And we never really did, or at least I never really got much feedback or results from that, like I was hoping. And so now I'm caught in this, like, do I continue trying to shop it around or do I continue to work on it? And I think I'm leaning more towards the continue to work on it thing. Because the more I learn, the more it's making sense and the easier it's becoming, and it's starting to get to a point where I think if I just get through one or two of the little functions in the app, that everything else will kind of start making sense from there. Mm-hmm. And so if I can get one or two of the small, because right now I'm caught up on functionality, like getting like the layout's done. Now I have to make it work. Right. And if I can get one of them to work, and then I can kind of, apply the same principles that I learned on the first one and slowly learn, it's going to cascade down, and hopefully sometime down the road, maybe I'll be able to be a web dev kind of guy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, do I focus on that, or do I focus on audio engineering? Or it's like
it's hard, and that's been my big thing. And actually, from our conversation with Chris Doe, is what sort of helped me, because he just flat out asked me, he's like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I don't have a straight answer. And it sounds like you don't have a straight answer.
I've narrowed it down to two.
And
web development and audio engineering.
Yeah, and I'm narrowed down to 3 tracks now: the strategy, the design, and the side project, the Squiddle thing. And that's me too. But like, even though that doesn't seem like a lot, just being able to narrow down to a channel has been immensely helpful.
Well, you took all the, for lack of a better term, bullshit out of the way, and now you have focus. And by doing that, you're kind of putting the blinders on and you're going in a straight line versus, now I'm getting pulled off to the right for this. Now I'm getting pulled off to the left for that.
Yeah, and I will say that the one struggle that I'm having, and it's just a matter of semantics, really, it's just organization, is that the idea is to keep my primary company as strategy. I've got a new company name and new everything for the design business. But like the clients that I'm onboarding right now, these new clients are all design clients, but they're being onboarded through my current company. And so it's sort of like I'm running into problems already because, out of necessity, out of just having to pay bills, I need to bring in work. And the other stuff's not ready yet.
Yeah.
So I'm having to bring it in here. So eventually I'll transition all these clients to the new company. And, for them, it'll just be a name change. For me, it'll be a shift in mentality. But it'll be, I think it's something that can be overcome down the road. And I'll decide how to delegate that. The parts of this new business that are strategic will stay with the strategy. And the parts that are design will go with the design. And that'll be that. But anyway, so it's kind of a mess. But I will say about your app, I've recently met so many angel investors and so many other things. And I've also got some information on how to present to them and stuff, that if you did want to try and seek some funding for your project, whether it's strictly just for the marketing when it comes time, because that's one of the big problems is you might have the app done, but then you need to sell it.
Yeah.
And
get it in front of people.
And from what I understand, and this is my super naive, just barely learning about this world, but you don't want a venture guy, because the venture guys are the ones that invest in the Twitters and stuff like that. Those are the big guys. What you really want are the angel type investors, and the angel investors, I guess, can just pick you because they like you or because they back your project.
I am a nice guy. Yeah. I have a really cool app.
Well, at the co-working space I'm working at down here are 2 guys that have given more than $100 million apiece to companies in Salt Lake Valley.
Dang.
And so they're part of a big angel investor group out of Park City, and they got dough. And if you can put together a compelling pitch, they might get on board. And basically it's just, it's an 8-page deck, to pitch the product. So
do you have a template already?
I was told by this investor guy that you can just Google it, and it's just angel investment deck or pitch deck. And you can build just this, 8 or 9 page document. It doesn't have to be real heavy. Just sort of explain what you got, what it does, who it's for, how much you need, and what you're going to do with it. And then you can, pitch it to them. Maybe they'll say no, but at a minimum, if what you need is some marketing money or something, because especially like with a product like yours, I think you're really going to need to advertise it and promote it through these, pay-per-click services and AdWords and stuff like that. And so, maybe trade magazines and some other things like that. But I don't know where, it seems like it's going to be largely online, your marketing.
I have a pretty good idea what I need to do to get it out there. It's just a matter of, like you said, funding and finishing it. But anyways. Yeah.
But anyway, so I would encourage anybody to go to these co-working environments because I've been able to meet a lot of interesting people and stuff like that, and it's been a real benefit.
Another thing that's cool about those is it's not even just that is part of it, but like say, for example, you've got your desk here, 2 desks down, you got a video guy, 2 desks down, you got a web guy.
Yeah, the collaborative stuff is huge.
Yeah.
And, having worked out of a bunch of these different places, although I just heard that the one I love in downtown LA is closed, which is
really?
bummer. I actually saw it on a commercial the other day. It was a Visa ad or a PayPal ad or something, and they had shot it in the co-working. So because it was such a cool space.
Yeah.
But
probably the cost of rent.
I got an email or something that said they were going out. And I mean, both times, well, the 3 or 4 times I've been there and then the time you and I went, I mean, there wasn't hardly anyone in there. So, I mean, it was a huge space. So I'm sure it was hard to keep it going.
Yeah.
But it was a place called Control Collective downtown LA. So, I really liked that joint. So support Control Collective. I know they have some other locations and stuff, so support those guys. I don't know if they're moving or what they're doing, but anyway, check it out.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And the coffee shop downstairs was awesome.
Yeah, really good. It's called Verve, and it's downstairs. Speaking of coffee shops being awesome, though, at the co-working here in Salt Lake, this Access Salt Lake, there's a shop in there called Kupla. And eventually we'll probably have the girls who run it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We talked about that.
Yeah, we'll probably have the girls who run it on the show at some point.
They were bubbly, almost too bubbly.
Yeah, they're kind of out of control, but their customer service is on point.
Next level.
And they are, identical twins. They've built this coffee shop, and I think they have aspirations of opening several more. But I mean, from the very first day they met me, they knew my name. They remembered my name. They've learned about me, my
wife,
wife,
the trick
everything.
is I've been gone 6 weeks.
Yeah, will they
remember me? Then
I don't know. I mean, because I'll be gone a week at a time, and they'll remember my order. You know what I mean? Like all the way down to what I order.
That's one thing I love about the Starbucks at Pocatello is I've been there enough where I walk in there. What's up, Mike? It's kind of fun to just have that community and the people that know you.
Yeah, yeah, it is kind of fun. And so, I mean, it's actually one of the things I enjoy most about the co-working that I've been going to is their shop. Now, the downside is even though they haven't been charging me too much to use the space, the money I'm spending at the coffee shop every day is becoming cost prohibitive. So I need to, because I go in early, I have breakfast, lunch, and coffee there. So it's becoming kind of expensive.
It adds up.
But their chicken salad is on point. And so is the coffee there. So if you ever have an opportunity, you're downtown Salt Lake, check out Kupla Coffee. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of hidden, but...
Yeah, it's kind of hard to get to. It's in the Access building, which is the same building where Access is, and Access 41, which is a big ad agency here in Salt Lake. So it's a popular building and everything, but it is, it's subterranean. It's kind of hard to get to. But they stay busy, so kudos on them. But hopefully we'll get them on the show at some point to talk about their dreams and aspirations. They are an interesting crew and very cool. But there's one story that you told me about just the other day that sort of capped off your 6-week adventure.
Yeah,
I think maybe we ought to get into before we wrap this thing up.
So if you do the math on how much it would cost for me to be on the road for 6 weeks just in hotel rooms, I think it's like $120, $130 a night for a hotel room. And logistically, it wouldn't make sense. So essentially for the last 6 weeks, I've been homeless, which is, it's like, it's by choice. I could have gotten hotel rooms, but I would much rather invest that money into equipment and grow my business. It's just the way I am. It's the way I'm programmed. I'm cheap. If you know my dad, we're cheap. So I set up my truck to where the back half of the truck was, a bed and a place to sleep, and the gear fits in the back, like the canopy enclosed area, and it's an all-in-one kind of touring DJ mobile kind of thing. And there were a few times on this trip that I think if you go back and listen to one of the mini casts or whatever, I did one on my phone while I was walking around. And part of the reason that I started recording that episode was because I was walking around and some homeless dude jumped out of a bush and scared the hell out of me. And I hit record on it in case he decided to stab me, and you would be able to...
The last will and testament
of Mike, yes. And so I put that out there, and I've got a little routine figured out for the Seattle area of places to go and safe places, and because really being homeless is not easy. Those people that are doing it daily, holy cow, I couldn't do that. Like it's next level, and I had a truck to sleep in. I can't even imagine like cardboard boxing it kind of thing. But the last day that I was in Anacortes, I decided, okay, this is my farewell, kind of my last night. I'm not going to be back for 6 months. I'm going to go bar hop a little, have a few drinks. And I parked my truck in a place where parked my truck in a place where I felt it was safe. It was a lit parking lot, and I would end up at the truck after I walked, and had a drink and said hi to some friends at a few, like 2 or 3 different bars. And so I get back to the car and I lay down to go to sleep, and I've been in the car for like 15 minutes. It was about 1:00 at night, 1:30, and this truck pulled up next to me, and it pulled up and parked, and 4 guys jumped out, and they were not the best people in the world.
Ruffians
was a pretty good description for them, and they jumped out, and what woke me up was I heard "Let's do this" and the car doors close, and I'm the only other car in the parking lot. The only reason that they would have parked next to me was to break into the car. And so essentially they had spotters that jumped out to look to see for anyone that would be coming into the parking lot or it was right next to a main drive in Anacortes, but it kind of turns into a sleepy town after midnight.
Yeah.
And so they jump out, and I could tell he was getting ready to either break my window or try the door handle or something. So I just sat up and like, hey, what the hell are you doing? And it scared the piss out of those guys because they weren't expecting someone to be in the car.
Be in the car, yeah, no, of course.
And so he was like, "Dude, what are you doing in there?" And I'm like, "What are you doing to my car?
I live here, bro.
This is my home. What are you doing?" And I pulled out my phone and I turned the camera on and the flash on so he could see that I was recording him. And it didn't actually hit record; it just turned the flash on. And the instant that he saw the light turn on the phone, they stopped talking and they started whistling to each other.
Yeah, you mentioned that they had some kind of like weird whistling.
They had a whole like communication form set up with like whistles and just noises, and they disappeared. And
and you said that they left the car they arrived in, right?
They left. I think it was a stolen truck. That's the only thing I can think of because. If I had it registered in my name and I was going to be going around breaking into trucks, I wouldn't leave.
I would not leave the car registered to me.
Yeah, there. Right. And so they took off, and I called the cops. And keep in mind,
well, so you may have done a public service, though. Maybe whoever's car this was got it back.
Maybe, which would have been awesome.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. But what I'm getting at is I had a few drinks, and I was sleeping in my car, and I've heard horror stories of people in that same situation getting woken up and getting a DUI.
Yeah, which is insane to me, by the way. If you have the wherewithal to not drive, but I mean, I get what they're saying. You're in the car, you could drive.
The mistake is they get in the driver's seat and they have the keys within reach.
Yeah.
Whenever I do this, I put the keys in the back of the canopy where it's not even in the front half.
Right.
And I had a bed and a mattress in there. So it's like...
Yeah.
It's very obvious that I wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah, it just kills me when people get charged for something that could have happened.
Yeah.
That's insane to me.
So I called the police knowing that I was over the legal limit and that I couldn't technically drive. And when they got there, I flat out told them, I was like, here's the situation. My car almost got broken into. I was in here. I scared them off. I don't feel safe sleeping in the car here because I don't know if they're going to come back and try and do something later, get their truck, whatever. I cannot drive. I'm in a position right now where I can't move my car, and I can't. Luckily for me, I had stored all my equipment in a storage unit.
Oh, that is lucky. Yeah, no, I was actually telling my wife about this, and I was going, well, thank God he was there, because if they'd have robbed him and taken all his gear, Like there would have been no wedding the next day.
Yeah.
And so-
Well, the thing is I knew that I was going to be around some areas that potentially something like that could have happened. And I go for walks at night just to get in shape. You know, I'm trying to lose weight, trying to, you know, whatever. So I'd go for walks, and I don't like taking off for a mile or two and having all my gear in the back. So I got a storage unit, and after each gig, I'd put all the gear in the storage unit.
Yeah.
And so all I had with me was my laptop. And so the officer was kind, and he was like, dude, I get it. You can either stay in the car and sleep, or you can, you know, go get a hotel room. So I went and got a hotel room at 2:00 in the morning. And the guy at 2:00 in the morning that checked me in was very apparent. Like, he was like, dude, you're drunk. Dude, you know, like he did not want to give me the room. He wanted to, when I get, okay, another side story. I didn't have my driver's license because the day before I left, I lost my wallet.
Oh.
And so now I'm sitting here
Trying to get
drunk.
into a hotel drunk without ID.
I'm drunk in a car without ID, with you know, all this stuff. And the fact that I was straight up and I told the police officer everything and didn't hide anything or lie about anything like that is what kept me from getting in trouble.
Right.
And just being honest and you know, saying, hey man, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing an awesome job. And you know, this is the situation. And when he's like, hey, can I get your ID? And I'm like, so I got a story. You could see his eyes roll over, like, here we go. You know, this guy that's been cool to me is now the shady stuff is coming out, right? And I'm like, so I lost my wallet the day before I left. So I brought my passport instead, and his face just lit up. He's like, you okay?
At least you thought to bring your passport.
At least you got some sort of ID, right?
'Cause that counts.
Because you know that 90% of the time he gets the same sob story, trying to talk his way out of why his license is suspended, or you know, all this other stuff. And the fact that I had an ID, he was able to actually see who I was, and you know that I didn't have any warrants or any weird stuff, and I'm not trying to, you know, do some shady stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's pretty much what it comes down to. If you treat them like humans and talk to them like, here's the deal, and be honest, they're not out to just screw everyone for the most part.
Yeah, generally speaking.
But you got to keep in mind everyone they're dealing with.
Yeah, that's what I always say is that cops, you're usually seeing people on the worst day of their lives.
Yeah.
Whether they got caught robbing someplace or they are calling the police because something's happened to them. They're always seeing them on the worst day.
Yeah.
And so it's it's a pretty thankless job, really considering.
And with all this stuff going on, you know, everything you see in the news these days, to me, that it was cool to. It sucked to this, you know, that happened to me, and that I, you know, but the fact that I had a good interaction with them, and I, you know, you hear other stories where it's not a good interaction, and it.
Well, and I think largely people bring it on themselves. You know, to your point, I mean, you were kind, you were respectful, you gave them what information you had, you were straightforward with them. You know, I think all that is, you know, goes a long way, really. You know, because they don't get that from everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the times when stuff goes sideways with the cops, it's because somebody decided for whatever reason not to treat them the right way.
Yeah.
Whether it's they decide to run and they get hurt, or they, you know, get mouthy and get hurt, or whatever. I mean,
well,
at the same time,
it's respect gets respect. Yeah. It's the same thing with me in the DJ booth. If you come up and you're a dick to me, I'm a dick right back.
Right.
And it's
well, and it's everything, right? It's every interaction. You know, if the waitress at the restaurant sucks, you know, there's no tip.
Yeah.
And you know, but if she's off the wall, awesome, and gives you all you need and takes great care of you, then you tip her big.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just. You treat each other right, you know, then.
Well,
then
and also, I mean, like past history with dealing with police, and I have friends that are police officers, and so when I've gone camping with them, I've hung out with them, I know them as a person and not as a, you know, an on-duty police officer who is out to get you, or
right.
quote unquote, you know, they're real people. It was just a really neat experience for me to know they got my back, and to know that I can count on them if I need them. And I was nervous as hell calling them, but I knew that I needed to.
Right.
But
yeah, no. Well, crazy situation, but what a way to cap off 6 weeks being gone.
yeah, the night before.
Literally the night before you leave.
Yeah.
It's, at risk of being robbed. But,
So.
Luckily nothing came of it and you're okay and everybody's good. But yeah, scary situation.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go that route next year.
Yep. Hotels, baby. Work it into your fee.
It already is. That was part of the problem. Was I was charging enough if I lived there.
Right. Yeah.
I wasn't charging enough with the travel, and when I did the money on the travel and the cost of gas and wear and tear, it just didn't make sense to go back and forth. So I set it up as pretty much an RV.
Yeah.
And that was rough. Like it was.
Yeah. Next year, you either got to get a better RV.
Yeah.
Rent a C-class RV
and
or
a
something
place
for
to
6
park
weeks, or whatever.
Because like the way that I did it is I have an Anytime Fitness membership.
Yeah,
and so I've been watching Suits. You ever watch that? You got to watch it.
No,
it's
but
great.
Our dear friend Desi Valentine's song is.
I heard it last night.
Yeah.
It was on the episode I watched last night because I'm on
funny.
like that.
Yeah, I think it's the
season
theme or
6
the
or
end of the season
end of the
finale
season
or
finale.
Yeah.
But what I've been doing is I'll use the Wi-Fi at Anytime Fitness and I'll work out for 3 hours, then shower, and then go. And so it's getting me in shape, and it's also giving me access to Wi-Fi to stream movies or whatever.
Yeah.
And then a place to shower. And
Yeah.
so it was like the perfect kind of setup, but if I had to do it again.
Yeah. Hard living out of a pickup truck anyway.
No.
That's tough living.
So
yeah, you got to go conversion van next year or something.
No, next year
or Motel 6 at
is
least.
hotel provided by the client.
Yep, I like that idea. So cool. Well, anyway, then to wrap up, I just want to talk real quick about we've got some exciting guests coming up. We've got a lot of things. We sort of led off this show talking about the rapid sudden growth and how things are going. I want to start being a little better about teasing things to come and stuff like that. And so I just wanted to mention we're going to have a couple guests. We've got a guy named Damian Lupo coming on. He's with Total Control Financial. He's like a business coach, financial coach. I think he'll be really good information for us. We've got AJ Wilcox coming on at some point, probably around the end of September. He's a LinkedIn ads expert and founder of B2 Linked. You can check him out on Google or wherever. Next week, we're interviewing Chris Daly with Disruptive Marketing. He does SEO and marketing online. We also have a copywriter and a guy who has done some... he actually wrote a episode of The Future for Christo's company, The Future, I'm spacing out what it's for. But anyway, you'll have to check him out. His name's, is it Mike or Matt Silderman? I think it's Matt. Sorry, I should have known that if I was going to tease it.
Oh,
but we booked him weeks ago. Matt Silderman. And you can just Google his name. It's spelled like it sounds. And you can find, he has a marketing consultancy of his own, and he's also written some stuff for
Sounds
Christo.
like we have a pretty cool...
So we've got a pretty stacked lineup. We actually have a couple others that have fallen off or needed to be rescheduled that are really exciting too. So I'm going to hold off on talking about those guys. But we've got a great roster of things to come, and I think we're going to start hitting a lot of categories and subjects that people have expressed interest in and stuff. So I think the good times will keep on coming. This was episode number 70. I'm kind of impressed with us.
I know,
we've gotten
right?
this far. And
I was expecting like 5.
Yeah, right. and here we are, 70 episodes deep. I mean, that equals 70 weeks, which is kind of insane. And so anyways, hats off to us.
Yeah. High five.
High five. And to everybody who listens to the show and helps us out, supports us along the way. We are looking for sponsors at this time. And so if you know anybody or if you have any interest in participating.
Keep in mind I was homeless for 6 weeks.
That's right. Mike needs an RV. So any RV companies out there want to back the show, that'd be killer. So anyway, we're looking for support. So please spread the good word. If you or anybody you know happens to have a business or something that might be interested in supporting the show, we'd love to talk to them. You can shoot us an email at info@eggscast.com. You can also check out the show at eggsshow.com and on the socials at Eggs Show.
Cool.
I think you can also catch me online, r2mg.com or ryanrogar.com, and our dear friend Miguel over at djantic.com.
Yep.
For the time.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of
Transitions in
the wind.
And I think he's going to stay a dude, so the transition's different. So
you had to take it there, right?
Sorry, I think I'm funny after an hour of this. Anyway, so with that, thanks everybody for tuning in again this week. Fun catching up with Mike. It's been a long time in the coming, and lots of great stuff to come. Thanks so much, and have an awesome week.
Later.